this Sunday night, the super villain event of the year.
It's the 45th Annual Enemy Awards.
Brought to you live from an undisclosed location somewhere deep beneath the city.
It's the only award show honoring the worst achievements of your favorite super villains.
It's evil.
Ba 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 da 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 ba 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 da 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 ba 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 da da da. And he's not afraid.
Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan and welcome to the Superhero Rewind Enemy Awards. Inspired by the animated Tick episode Armless But Not Harmless, I've created 12 categories, each with 4 nominations celebrating the best and worst supervillain achievements in superhero movie history. Though I review all kinds of superhero movies, these awards will only cover the live-action superhero films. So sit back, relax, and enjoy an award show where the judging panel consists of one person. The losers either aren't here to defend themselves or aren't actually real people in the first place, and you won't have to listen to long acceptance speeches. In the first category, we have the superhero movie villain with the worst costume, and the nominees are Green Goblin from Spider-Man. As Weird Al Yankovic once said, he's wearing that dumb Power Rangers mask, and he's scarier without it on. Catwoman from Batman Returns. Michelle Pfeiffer was a relatively popular choice for Catwoman, and while she's quite attractive in a skin-tight catsuit, it never worked for me. It always looked kind of like it was sewn together with trash bags. New Goblin from Spider-Man 3. Like father, like son, neither of these guys seems to have any fashion sense. What's with the rollerblader look, and how in any sense is he a goblin? And finally, Nuclear Man from Superman 4. It's bad enough the best the writers could come up with to call this guy was Nuclear Man in a movie that was obviously anti-nuclear arms, but what the heck is he wearing? And it's got a big N in the center? Really? Really? And the Enemy Award for Worst Supervillain Costume goes to Nuclear Man. This is sillier than both goblins put together. Now we move on to the award for Best Henchman to a Villain in a Superhero Film. The nominees are Mystique from the X-Men movies. She's always loyal to Magneto no matter what, until he finally turns her away when she loses her powers in X-Men 3. I would have loved to have seen her as a fully realized villain with her own grandiose plans at some point, but she and Magneto made a great team. Bob from Batman, 1989. Another loyal henchman who's stabbed in the back, or more aptly, shot in the chest. I love how he seems to just really like his job and he never complains, doing anything the Joker asks, including giving the Joker the weapon for his own execution. Otis from Superman and Superman 2. Lex Luthor's bumbling idiot sidekick and his comic relief. And the Penguins from Batman Returns. It's not my favorite movie, but I can't help but love an army of penguins with missiles on their backs. I even bought the action figures. And the award goes to Bob. I mean, I want him as my henchman. The next award goes to the worst casting choice in a superhero movie. The nominees are Matthew Good as Ozymandias from Watchmen. From his first scene, it's painfully obvious by his mannerisms and choice of line delivery that this guy is the villain. That's supposed to be a secret until the final act, and it certainly wasn't this callable in the graphic novel. Julian McMahon is Dr. Doom. He's a good actor, but he isn't Dr. Doom to me. He's arrogant and thinks he's the greatest thing ever, but comic book Dr. Doom is so awesome, he can almost convince you he really should be ruling the world. McMahon played him as too much of a corporate tycoon, and I could never really see him as king of his own country. I'm still not sure how much of that was the actor and how much of it was the directing and the writing, though. Topher Grace is Venom. Eddie Brock doesn't look or act like Topher Grace. He looks like this. He's a jock. Topher also played him as a bit of a whiner. And Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. Victor Freeze is a brilliant and well-spoken scientist who's cursed to forever try to cure his wife. That character definition and Arnold Schwarzenegger don't exactly go together. And the award for worst casting choice for a supervillain goes to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Maybe if Mr. Freeze was a frozen robot from the future, but otherwise, no. And now, the best and most memorable villain gag in a superhero movie. The nominees are the Joker's pencil trick from The Dark Knight.
I'm gonna make this pencil disappear. It's gone.
Bullseye killing an old lady with a peanut from Daredevil.
I said...
Oh,
she's sleeping. Can I get you anything before we land?
More peanuts? Please.
The octopus's toilet gag from the spirit.
Toilets are always funny.
And the Joker taking down the Batwing in Batman. And the award for Best Gag goes to the Joker's pencil trick. It might be the obvious choice, but it's still talked about so often, I think, because it's really that good of a joke, and a great way to fully introduce the character in that film. The next award goes to the lamest villain made up for a comic book adaptation. Here are the nominees. Lord Noranaga from Ninja Turtles 3. We get 2 movies with Shredder, and the Turtles mythos has tons of other supervillains left to explore. Krang, Rat King, Slash, Baxter Stockman, and instead we get a time travel movie with the most generic villain ever. I'm also looping in that evil English guy in here too. If they win, they can split their award in half or something. Ross Webster from Superman 3. Sure, there was Richard Pryor, but he wasn't really the villain in that movie. In fact, he was more like the protagonist, with Superman so much in the background. So there's this generic supervillain with an elaborate extortion scheme. Let's see, we just had a movie about a scary bad guy from Krypton. What sounds more gripping? General Zod, extortion. General Zod, Nuclear Man from Superman 4. A nuclear clone of Superman. Because there's no more cool Superman villains left to use. Half the franchise has to make up lame new ones. Laurel Hedare from Catwoman. Her brilliant scheme is to sell makeup that destroys women's faces and hope no one notices it's her company's product. And the award for lamest made-up villain goes to Ross Webster. Superman has to practically take himself out of this movie for this guy to even sort of look like a threat. Next, we have the award for worst adaptation of a comic book villain. The nominees are Venom, and he's going to show up on these worst of lists a lot. Galactus, one of Marvel's most intriguing bad guys reduced to a giant cloud. Bane, the brilliant assassin reduced to a monosyllabic henchman. And, once again, New Goblin. Why couldn't Harry be the second Green Goblin like he was supposed to? They were so close to getting this close to the comics, and then they gave him a stupid name to go with his stupid costume. And the award for worst adaptation of a comic book villain goes to Bane. That's not Bane, that's Poison Ivy's giant bodyguard. And now, of course, the best adapted villain. This award goes to the villain I find to be closest to its source material. The nominees are Bullseye from Daredevil. Now, he certainly has a major costume change, but he's very similar to his costume counterpart in character. He never misses, he's proud of his skills, and he loves his work. Magneto from the X-Men films. Ian McKellen is maybe older than most interpretations of the character in the comics, but he perfectly embodies Magneto's motivations and beliefs about mutant superiority. We believe his friendship with Professor X, and he looks great in the costume. Clown from Spawn. As much as I don't like some of his gross humor, he spouts a lot of one-liners and tries to manipulate Spawn just like in the comics, and he moves just as I would have imagined Clown would. And finally, Scarecrow from Batman Begins, the twisted psychiatrist who uses fear toxin to make people qualified to go into his asylum. Cillian Murphy takes him straight off the page onto the screen. And the winner is Scarecrow. He's not only a good adaptation, I think I like him even a little better than in the comics. And now, the award for most convoluted villain plot in a superhero movie. This award goes to the villain with the most disorganized and most confusing plan. The nominees are the Penguin from Batman Returns. He wants revenge on humanity for throwing him away and turning him into an outcast. Then he wants to be the mayor. Then when that doesn't work out, he goes back to his first plan and suddenly comes up with kill everyone's firstborn son. I don't know if this is what he had up his sleeve the whole time, or if he just came up with that at the last minute. Malbolgia from Spawn. He wants the darkest soul he can find to trick into leading Hell's army. And Jason Wynn's hinge chick is about 1,000 times more evil than Al Simmons. He wants Al to kill Jason Wynn because Wynn has a bomb in his heart, but what's the point of that? And why would Malbolgia think Spawn will become really evil after getting revenge on Wynn for killing him? David Banner from Hulk. He wants to become all-powerful by stealing his son's powers, which as far as I can tell aren't nearly as powerful as his own. He also rambles on in the third act about hating society and wanting to destroy it, a motivation that comes out of nowhere and isn't fully explained. And I still have no idea what's happening in the last 20 minutes of this movie. Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy from Batman and Robin, they both team up and plan to do their respective plans simultaneously. One is to freeze the whole world, the other is to give the world back to the plant kingdom, not exactly mutually exclusive. And the award for most convoluted villain plot goes to Malbolgia. Being the devil is an important job. You just can't run hell this way and expect to get any work done. Now we go to the best villain who shouldn't have been killed off. This award goes to a villain who I most would have liked to have seen again in another movie, and the nominees are the Joker in Batman from 1989. I realize not everyone likes Jack's performance, but I certainly do, and the Joker isn't a character I think should ever really be dead as long as Batman's still around. I was very glad that Christopher Nolan kept his Joker alive at the end of The Dark Knight. Speaking of, the next nominee is Two-Face in The Dark Knight. I would have liked to see him survive to become a fully realized villain in another movie. Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins, another villain I think could have returned, maybe not in the very next movie after Begins, but perhaps the one after that. Or at the very least, left it questionable about whether or not he really died. And once again, Venom in Spider-Man 3. Not that I thought he was done so well I wanted more of him, but if he were left alive, his lack of screen time might have felt less disappointing. And the award goes to Venom, one of Spider-Man's hardest-to-beat villains in the comics, killed in about 2 minutes flat. Now we move on to the most genuinely psychotic villain. The nominees are the Joker from The Dark Knight. He gives no reason for what he does, but is totally committed to it. Green Goblin from Spider-Man. Willem Dafoe does great work grappling with multiple personalities. Stryker from X2. He truly believes all mutants should be eradicated. He thinks he's making the morally correct choice, though he's driven by revenge. And Mr. Glass from Unbreakable. He kills thousands just to find a superhero, hoping to give hope to millions. And the winner is the Joker from The Dark Knight, a great commentary on irrationality itself. Next, we have the award for Best One-Liner from a Supervillain. The nominees are the Joker from 1989.
Tell me something, my friend. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
General Zod from Superman 2.
Kneel before Zod!
The Joker from The Dark Knight.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan?
And Bullseye from Daredevil.
I want a bloody costume.
And the winner is the Joker from Batman. I think this is the most quotable and memorable line from all of superhero movies. That's just my opinion. And finally, we come to the award for most sympathetic villain in superhero movies. This award is for the villain whose motives and character I appreciate most and have the most respect for, regardless of the terrible things he might do because of those beliefs. The nominees are Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man 2. He's trying to create a renewable energy source for everyone, and he risks lives and sacrifices everything for that goal. When he finally realizes he can't accomplish this, he sacrifices himself to save lives. Magneto from the X-Men films. He believes mutants are better than humans, and humanity hasn't given him enough reason to believe otherwise. He sees mutants as his own kind, and he'll do anything he has to create a future for his people. Ra's al Ghul. He does whatever he finds necessary to uphold justice, and he doesn't draw a line at killing. He believes in the good of the many, even when sacrifices must be made. He believes himself to be a hero just as Batman does, but he doesn't think Batman goes far enough to create a safer world. And finally, Dr. Horrible from Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along blog. He wants to rule the world and make it a better place, and the heroes of his world are just out for themselves. He gives up a lot to finally achieve this goal, and though it's hard for him and he knows he's done terrible things, he embraces his future. I truly think that though he joins the evil League of Evil, he isn't actually evil. He sincerely wants to help people, but he does horrible things in the process. And the winner is Magneto. For 3 films, Magneto becomes not just another antagonist, but someone I care about and respect, even though I don't agree with him and his ideals are frightening ones. And those are the Enemy Awards. I'll see you once again on Superhero Rewind.
Ba, ba.